It cost me 75 grand. That's when I learned the secret about how to work with only epic clients and how to avoid the clients from hell like the plague. I'm going to teach you that today. I'm John Benson, and this is Sales Copy Secrets. Welcome back, and this is my video on my $75,000 mistake and how you can avoid clients from hell. And it's going to be so good, especially if you're a copywriter. So if you're here looking for copywriting tips, tactics, techniques, if you are a marketer looking to sell more stuff online using words, then this is for you. Let's dive right into the training. So how did I lose 75K? Well, I ignored basically 2 of the red flags I'm going to cover today. There are 5. Count them 5 red flags that you want to be on the lookout for. But I did learn a valuable lesson, and it's one I will never repeat. So there's that. And then there's the thing I can teach it to you so you don't have to make that kind of mistake. So not too bad after all. Just note that some of these red flags are meant to be just what they are, red flags. They're warning signs. They're not necessarily run from this client if one of them happens. So just bear in mind that you want to look for these in quantitative order. In other words, if there's more than one going on, there's definitely not going to be a good fit. If there's just one, it's probably negotiable. Maybe it depends on you. I'll let you be the judge, but I'm going to list the 5 that really do it for me, that say, this is not a good fit. No matter how much money they want to pay me, it will be worse than working for them than it will be cashing that check. And I want to go out and attract the opposite. I want to attract clients that I want to work with. And yes, you can do that even as a beginner. But before we begin, I want to give you the best possible advice that I've ever heard and I've ever given when it comes down to acquiring a copywriting client. Now, some of you won't be able to do this because you don't have the cash flow. Maybe you need the money a lot right now. And so if someone pays you, say, $10,000 for a job, you need all 10. But if at all possible, here's what I think you should do. You should give your clients, usually it's a 50-50 or a 50-25-25 split. So let me give you the 50-25-25. What I mean is let's say I'm going to use simple math, $100, okay? I would never do that, but let's say I charged $100. Then I would say, okay, you're going to pay me $50 now, and then pay me $25 after X. Usually that's after I submit the creative ideas. In other words, I'll do the hook and the big idea and all this stuff. And I'm going to tell you why that's really cool. We'll do the 50-25 in a second. And then the final 25 is due upon the completion of the script. In other words, I don't wait until they complete their thing. Once they sign off on the script, I don't turn it over to them until they pay the final 25. Sometimes I do just 50-50. It makes it a lot easier in some ways, but that 25 is pretty cool, and I'll tell you why I do that. And here's the tricky part. Ready? I take that 50% that they give me. Let's say it's $50 from $100, and I will divide it in half, okay? And I will say on the invoice, this is $25 is for creative only, and the other $25 is for the start of the production. Creative is not refundable. If I have to think about your project, if I have to put any mental thought into it, that's the half of the 50% they just gave me. So in this case, they gave me $50. That's $25 of that $50. That is never going to be refunded no matter how much they bitch, whine, moan, and scream. Okay, I don't do refunds anyway, but if you do and you get in a situation you want to avoid a lawsuit, this can be put into a contract. Okay, creative is never refundable. The other 50% would be something that you write. In other words, something you write around the creative. And you don't even do that until you get approval on the first percentage. So this is kind of cool because once you get approval on the creative, you can bill 50% more. So now you've got 75% billed before you've done any heavy writing. Pretty cool technique if you want to use it, but at least get 50% up front and put half of it away if you can. Because let me tell you the trick here. Some clients are so awful that once you get into it, you submit the creative idea, I don't like it, submit me 4 more, and you're like, screw this, I don't want to work with you. And even if I need the money, I'm going to go out and find it someplace else, then just refund them half of what they paid you. Because in the contract that you will give them, that's what it will say. This is the creative fee. I take this. Here's the other 50% of that 50%. Sorry, the percentages, things are confusing. So, but anyway, you're going to refund half of what they gave you and say, see ya. Trust me, that will be the best money you ever lose because you do not want to put up with working with people that are a pain in the ass to deal with. Just not worth it. So I'll go into all of that economic stuff in greater detail in other videos. Sorry that went by so fast, but I did want to give it to you as a quick trick. Again, I'm just going to recap it here. If you charge $100 for your job, ask for $50. And then in your mind, you contract it out. You say 25 of that 50 is for creative. It's not refundable. And then 25 of that is for production on the initial creative. That is if you have to make it refundable, make that refundable. I make nothing refundable. But if they complain and you want to fire them, I give them half of their deposit back. That's basically the way it works. Okay, red flag number 1, the client does not respect your time. Now, this is a red flag that you can pick up on immediately. I'll give you an example. If somebody's not willing to meet at a mutually agreeable time, in other words, if they say I can only meet you here at this time, that's all I've got, show up or else. In other words, they're not flexible. Then that's going to send up what I call a yellow alert from my Star Trek fetish. Okay, yellow alert, automatically going to be a problem, but not necessarily a red alert. Or if they email me during the project or before the project begins with constant meetings, or, and this is a big one for me, if they want to meet more than once prior to signing anything. In other words, they say, hey, let's have a meeting, let's talk, let's see if there's a good vibe. That's great. I give them 15 minutes, sometimes 30 if it's a big client. Okay, that's great. If they go, oh, we want to meet again and let you meet these 3 other people. No, okay, you can book me, but no. So I'm pretty firm on that. Over the years, I've just figured out that usually is going to be a bad thing. Now, if it's a huge company and there's a massive amount of money on the table and they just have to do it because of their politics, then that's okay. But just be on the lookout when smaller people do this, because sometimes they're just dragging ass and they're comparing you around to a whole bunch of other people. A great client will always be respectful of your time. That's the dream client. That's who you want to go for. However, there is a trick to that. You have to honor your own time. You have to lay boundaries for your own time. Otherwise, no one's ever going to respect your time. So do that first and foremost. Red flag number 2, and this scares newbies a lot, is that a client wants to see a lot of your work in advance. So a lot of newbies ask me, hey, what happens when somebody asks me to show them the last sales letter that you wrote or the last email sequence that you wrote for a client and you haven't written anything for anyone, or you've only written a few pieces? Well, that's one thing, and that is a concern. I'm going to give you a way around that in this video. However, if a client comes to me and asks me to see the last 9 BSLs that I wrote for somebody, I'm not going to do that. Now, it's reasonable for them to request to see something, so you can and should create a series of templates if you don't have them already written for another person that you can show someone, like a short sales letter or like a 3 email sequence to give them your style, your basic style. But don't show them too much stuff. I'll tell you why in a moment. First of all, I'll tell you what's even better, and that is a slew of testimonials from people you have worked with, being as specific as possible about how awesome you are. I mean, start aiming for this as a goal of yours to get a testimonial. And again, the more specific, the better. For example, if they can say, hey, working with this guy or this gal increased my ROI by X, or I got an X amount ROI from working with them and it converted like Y, wow, then you've got a kick-ass testimonial. If you've got a series of those, that's far better than sending someone work. And I'll tell you why. Every project has its own voice. And if you send somebody work from a voice on a project that you did with this client, it may not match the voice on that client. And the client may not be able to understand that and go, oh, that doesn't sound like me. I don't want that. Okay? Because they don't know how to judge good copywriting. But anyone can judge a testimonial. Anyone can judge efficacy of how well something is done. So when someone asks me to see, the last 5 sales letters that I did, I just got asked this not too long ago. I get around this problem very simply and legally. It's because I require an NDA for all of my clients. Now, I have a flexible NDA. My NDA says I can say, if I want, who I worked with, the name of the company, and I can share a small part of the work that I did for that company, or upon written request, I can share all of what I've written with anyone else, like a portfolio would be. But I don't ever do that because, again, the voice thing. So I don't want someone to steal something. And by the way, surprise, surprise, this is how I lost $75,000. What I did is they said, hey, can you send me like examples of the last 3 upsells that you wrote? First upsell, second upsell, third upsell. I was like, yeah, because it was for a really big customer. And what they did is they ended up taking it, giving it to their in-house copywriter and going, okay, we're going to hire you for the main letter, but we'll knock off $75,000 because we don't want you to write the upsells, because we'll just kind of model it after what you already did. I was like, no. So the whole thing was definitely messy right from the go. They had already done it. And so I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? It's because if I could sue somebody, I'd do it. But it's not worth it to me to sue them over that kind of money, but I'll never work with them again. But I learned my lesson. Okay. It cost me $75,000. So again, if you can get a lawyer to draft up a very simple NDA, you will be covered, and you can simply say, when somebody says, hey, show me all these examples you're working, say, listen, I can show you an example. I can't show you all of my work because it's under NDA, and I respect you as well. I will sign an NDA with you to protect you so other people won't rip your stuff off either. Now, here's what I do, however, I will do this. I will say, hey, I've written for XYZ customer. you are more than welcome to go out there and find their VSL. I'm not going to send it to you because that would breach the NDA. But if you want to find their VSL or their sales letter or whatever, and you want to look it over, I've written that. And so I've got a whole long list of people I've written for. I go, yeah, just go do your homework and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, before I get to the other 3 red flags, let me ask you a question. How am I doing? Do you like what you're hearing so far? If so, do me a favor, pulverize that like button, smash that bell for notifications when my new videos drop, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. If you leave me a comment below, it will really help the channel continue to grow. We're doing great thanks to you, and thank you so much for watching. Now let's get on with it. Red flag number 3 is when the client hassles over the details of the price or the price itself. Now, some degree of haggling is going to happen. People are going to say, oh, that's a little high. Is there anything that you can do? That's okay. That's almost to be expected, some degree of it. But let me share with you the little mini script that I wrote for when I was getting pretty good at copywriting. This is probably in the intermediate stage of my copywriting career. Okay, I've gotten over the beginning hump, but you could use this as a beginner because it shows that you have respect for yourself. Listen to how I would word it and see what you think. My normal rate for a sales letter is $75,000 plus 3% of the gross profit. Now, by the way, you would say whatever your rate is, whatever the royalty you want to receive off of it is, but that was what I was doing at the time. However, I'll give you my repeating client rate of a 20% discount because you were referred to me by name. And I will say that if they are referred to me, or if it's an industry that I write in, I will use that too. I will say, I'll give you a repeating client rate of 20% discount. Again, that puts repeating client inside their head because I write specifically in the space and I know it so well. So my research time is cut down. So I'll give them a reason I'm cutting them such a good deal. However, this discounted price nor my payment terms are negotiable, not negotiable. So I give them the deal upfront that I'm willing to live with, which is great. And they know not to negotiate terms and the price, which is great. Very few people do after that. So try that. Works really well. Now, once you submit your 50% upfront invoice, which is what I recommend is 50% upfront, as I said earlier, do not begin work until you are paid. Okay, this is a mistake that many copywriters make. One of my good friends just made this mistake. He broke his own rule, and oh boy, did he ever live to regret it. They demanded a full refund and they were way off on their expectations of what they were looking for. So this does happen. So please wait until you get paid. And hey, if your client just hasn't written the check or wired the money yet, do it nicely. Send them an email going, hey, I'm looking forward to getting started on this, but my terms state that I don't start until the wire is received. Can you check on the status of that? The second email might be something like, hey, I need to move on to other projects. Are we going to do this? Let me know. Otherwise, I'll wish you the best. So in other words, you're kind of kicking them out the door. This is a definite red flag if it goes on too long. Red flag number 4 is a little bit ambiguous, but it's important. Someone that treats you like staff rather than a hired gun expert, because that's what you are as a copywriter, unless, again, you're working for somebody, then obviously this isn't applying to you. But if you are a freelance copywriter and somebody hires you, you are not their employee. You are not to be treated as their employee. No one expects you to show up at the staff meetings or to come to the premises of where they work and get offended if they don't. You are a hired gun. You work on your own terms, and you should make that very clear upfront in the contracts that you sign with your client. If they speak to you as if you work for them rather than you being in service of them, red flag, almost immediately no go for me. Or at least a, hey, listen, I am a hired gun here. I am an expert copywriter. I'm not an employee. So let's get our boundaries straight here. See if you can find some common ground with that conversation. If not, if your client's on a power trip and he's got to boss everyone around, get the hell out of Dodge. And red flag number 5, and boy, is this ever a big red flag. The client insists that you write in their voice. This is one of the hardest ones to deal with because most clients do not understand that they are not their customer. They are not their avatar. They also don't understand the reason their sales suck in the first place, and the reason they wanted to hire you in the first place is because the stuff they're writing isn't impacting the avatar they want to sell to, because they're trying to write as if they're selling to themselves. They're trying to undersell, not be salesy, write in some collegiate level voice. Not going to ever work. This just happened to another friend of mine, and he took on a client, and the client was these two lofty guys. Basically, they've written a very, cerebral book about, corporate environments and stuff. And the letter he wrote was really good. And when they got the letter, even though they were very impressed with the initial meetings, They were like, holy crap, this is way wrong. And they were really dicks about it. Okay. So it's one thing to be upset that, oh, you missed my voice. Another thing to be a jerk about it. So he just refunded them. So don't go through this. Make sure that they understand up front that you are writing to find, first of all, you're going to help find their best avatar. You're going to do the research and find who their customer is and analyze their customer's pain points, pleasure points. What does their customer really want? Interview the customers if you get a chance to. That's the best thing you can do. But at least poll them, get some sort of data on their customers. Why did you buy? What pain did it solve? What benefits does this give you? And then write to that. Ignore everything else. Let them know that upfront, that is your mission as a copywriter, not to write words that the owner loves, but to write words that the customer loves. I know it seems so obvious, but it's not obvious. Now, you do need to capture the person you're writing for. You need to capture their voice in some way, for sure. The things that they might say here and there, the tone that they speak in general, but they don't speak in NLP-drenched persuasion language. I'm almost positively for sure about that. So they're probably not going to speak the way that you need to speak to sell. So educate them during your first meeting and let them know that one of the reasons why their sales are suffering is because they're doing this. They're writing as if they're their avatar, and they're writing as if they are the ones that are going to buy their products. If you do this in a cool way and informative way, people will love you for it and they will get out of your way. Now, if you really want to avoid clients from hell, and I think that you do, here's what I want you to do. I want you to watch my very next video. It's below. It's all about the copywriting kiss of death. And if you fall victim to this kiss of death, you will be stuck for the rest of your life with these kind of clients from hell, clients that will pay you less, that will treat you poorly, because that's all you'll be able to get. I want you to avoid this kiss of death, the #1 mistake copywriters make, by watching the video below. And until next time, I'm John Benson. I'm here to help make you unignorable.